All right, so we are live with Amanda. Amanda is an experienced management consultant with a lot of experience in business transformation, strategic communication, project management, business case development, and she also helps other individuals, start their own consulting practices as well. How's it going, Amanda?
Going well. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this conversation today.
Of course, no, thank you for joining. I know you're really busy as well, so appreciate you taking the time to do this. So if you want to introduce yourself as well to the people listening, please go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. So my name's Amanda. I live in Victoria, BC, and I've been working as a consultant for 15 years now. Kind of started out in the bigger companies. So was at Deloitte for a number of years in their strategy and operations service line. Most of my work has focused on the public sector, just I think mainly because of where I live. Like here in Victoria, obviously there's a lot of work with the provincial ministries. So after, I don't know, probably almost 8 or 10 years in the bigger firms, decided to launch my own consulting business and started my own company in 2014. So I've been kind of doing independent consulting for about 7 years now. Still the same kind of work that I used to do at Deloitte, but I do it for myself for my own company now. And yeah, like you said in the intro, I've just kind of recently within the last year started coaching other consultants. So people who want to make that transition out of working for a consulting firm or other professional services firm and start their own independent consulting business. So I'm offering coaching services now to a wide range of individuals who want to be entrepreneurs and start their own gig.
Okay, that's nice. And what made you, get into consulting in the first place? Were you working in any other kind of sector before you started your journey in consulting?
Yeah, I kind of came at consulting from maybe an unusual route. It's not something that I was planning to do. My undergraduate degree is actually in molecular biology, and I thought I was going to be, a doctor, a geneticist, or something like that. And then worked in a lab for a little while after I graduated and realized I don't actually like this very much at all. So I was working in actually university administration for a little while, and then decided to do my MBA. And it was really during my MBA when I was kind of specializing in finance. That's when I sort of became aware of careers in investment banking and management consulting and went through, interview processes and ultimately decided consulting really appealed to me because I love diversity of work. I was never somebody who was going to choose one career path and just stick with it forever. I like trying different things and learning about all different types of industries. So consulting seemed super exciting to me in terms of just, getting that opportunity to learn about different sectors, different industries, different organizations, and just learn all the time. So that's sort of how I got into consulting at the beginning.
Yeah, that's like the beauty of consulting, right? It's almost something like project based where you get a lot of experience in different industries and different sectors. And then not only that, you're also working with different team members or different people. So you also learn how to work with different personalities.
Yeah, I love that too. I'm always meeting new people and getting to learn from other people. And then as you advance in your career, lots of opportunities to help teach other people as well.
Yeah, for sure. So, for me personally, I started consulting right off the bat after graduating from university and didn't really get much experience in a specific sector. And I wanted to get to know your thoughts on that. Do you see that often, or do you think it's more common or recommended to start in a specific industry and then make your way through consulting?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I know lots of people who've done it both ways. So I think it's mostly about looking at your own interests and kind of having a sense of what's the type of work they actually really love to do and what interests you the most. Because, there's pros and cons, obviously, of starting out in industry versus going into consulting and then exiting to go to industry. So I don't know. I think there's something really special about starting in consulting and getting exposure to maybe a whole bunch of different types of industries or client organizations that you wouldn't have a chance to work in otherwise. And then you can get a feel for what challenges you really like and what types of work or what types of clients that you don't want to pursue. And then you can kind of like specialize or choose a direction after that. But I think, starting off in consulting early in your career is a great move.
Okay, and what do you think makes a good consultant? I like personally, I see it as someone who's able to think strategically, someone who's able to articulate themselves really well, What are some common characteristics that you've seen in good versus great consultants?
Yeah, I think there's a number of things. I mean, obviously, having critical thinking and analytical skills is pretty important because a lot of the work that we do requires digging in and understanding, a wide range of information or data about a particular challenge, and then being able to make sense of that, um, and decide what path to take or what solution should be implemented. So that's one thing. I think great communication skills is also very important, whether it's in conversation with your clients, but also in written format, like in presentations. That's pretty important. And just client relationship skills, the ability to build a really good productive relationship with people, and being somebody that clients like to work with. That's also pretty helpful. So kind of that combination of quantitative skills, communication skills, and relationship building skills. Those are probably the top three.
Right. And I realize when people start their consulting careers, they're usually down in the weeds doing a lot of technical work and not necessarily a lot of client-facing activity going on. But then over time, there are certain individuals who'd like to make their way towards more strategic initiatives. How would you say, one can get to that place without getting stuck in the weeds for too long?
Yeah, I feel like there's a certain element of almost having to prove yourself in your first couple of years as someone who is, really smart and can, do that, whether it's analysis or building financial models or building a whole bunch of presentations. You have to kind of prove that you're really good at those things before maybe someone more senior is going to take notice of you and want to either mentor you or sort of sponsor you through some of those more um, challenging strategic types of opportunities. So I think you have to be active in obviously doing a great job of the first few assignments that you get, but also trying to build relationships within your firm to have someone want to bring you along on that journey with them. So I was really lucky in terms of having some great performance coaches and managers who saw some potential in me and started inviting me to some of those client meetings and getting involved in business development and writing proposals, and then being there for some of those more strategic conversations and more strategic roles. So I think you have to sort of like demonstrate yourself, prove that you can do it, and actively look for support from other people in your firm.
Yeah, for sure. And throughout your years of being coached and writing proposals, like you said, and learning a lot of other kind of strategic skills or taking part in strategic initiatives, what would you recommend in terms of resources for other people to be able to tap into in order to improve some of their skills as aspiring consultants?
Well, I mean, I feel like most of the consulting firms these days are doing a pretty good job of offering those types of training and coaching and mentoring opportunities for younger consultants. So it might just be a case of, familiarizing yourself with what your firm offers already and being really proactive about seeking out those opportunities to, improve your skills, to network within your company, to make connections and relationships with people who could maybe support you and keep you in mind when some really cool project opportunities come up, because that's sometimes those decisions are made. And unless you're top of mind for somebody, you might not get selected or placed on a particular project that you're really interested in.
Yeah, of course, you got to kind of throw yourself out there, take initiative, but also, like you said, there are a lot of internal universities that these consulting firms are coming up with in order to both retain and grow individuals within the firm. And what made you start your own consulting firm? Did you feel like there was a point where you were ready to do it, and then you're like, all right, I got the raw material necessary to cook something nice here, or was it something that you always had in mind, and like how did that happen?
Yeah, interestingly, it's not something I always had in mind. I never really considered myself to be an entrepreneur. So for me, it was really just a classic case of burnout. Going through a really, really tough and intense project experience. And I had just come back to work after my second maternity leave because I've got two kids. And yeah, just sort of hit the wall in terms of like, I can't keep putting in all these hours and started feeling a bit like my compensation wasn't really reflecting the value that I was delivering to my clients. And so I took a leave of absence to sort of figure out what it is I wanted to do next, and came to the conclusion I really love consulting and I love the work that I do with my clients, but I don't like the big firm environment anymore, or it just wasn't a fit for me anymore. And so it was actually a former client who gave me the idea. He just said, like, why don't you start your own business? Like, go out independent. And my first reaction was, well, that's just something that like men do when they're 55 years old and close to retirement, when you've got like, 30 years of experience and a huge network. And he was like, no, I think you could do it. Like, I think you've got what you need. And so I don't know, it was almost like I made the decision pretty quickly within the span of about a week or two, and gave my notice to Deloitte and started my own company right after that. And so it's been 7 years. And honestly, that was the best professional decision I ever made, because I really, really love what I'm doing now. And I love having my own business and being my own boss.
Hey, that's nice. That's really cool. And what were some of the main challenges that you faced as you were, creating your company? I mean,
Yeah, a couple things. Probably number one, I didn't really know what I was doing
yeah,
because I don't know, I didn't have any like role models or other friends who were entrepreneurs to sort of ask questions to. So it was literally like me Google searching things and, taking people out for coffee to try to pick their brain about how they started their company. And I just didn't really take it too seriously, maybe for the first year, because I wasn't sure if I was going to do it long term. So it took me, I don't know, I'd say 18 months before I actually took all of the necessary steps to formalize myself, like incorporating and yeah, just all those things that you should do right from the start. I didn't do because I didn't know how, or wasn't really sure if I was going to commit to this long term. So I think I went through, the bumpy early stages, and it took me a little while to figure out what I was doing. So I think that's part of why I thought, now that I've been doing it for 7 years, I have a lot of lessons and, knowledge that I could share with other people who want to do this and aren't really sure how to get started. So I've basically like synthesized everything that I had to learn the hard way, and I'm trying to accelerate the path for other people who want to do it too.
yeah, for sure. It's almost like, you only figure out all the small little details of like starting your own business once you get your skin in the game, right? Otherwise, from a kind of high level perspective, it all seems like simple, probably just an idea and you're going to do it, but you get down to the ground and you realize there's so much more to it. So I definitely appreciate that. How do you synthesize information? Because that's one of my personal goals, as well as like information synthesis. And that's one. And the second is, how do you learn new concepts in a short amount of time? You know what I mean? Because when you're a consultant, you need to learn a lot of new concepts on the go and very quickly. Do you have like methods, or do you have some sort of tips to accelerate that?
Yeah, that's actually, I don't know if anyone's ever asked me that question before, but it's something I do think about, because I get that feedback from my clients a lot, that I'm like a very fast learner and that I've been successful in my field because I can jump into any new organization. Maybe I don't know anything about them really, but very quickly can kind of get up to speed and
Right.
start to figure out what the challenges are and what I would do to help them. And I honestly think maybe it just comes from a combination of, my personality, which is that I love to learn. So I'm always constantly, reading and attending webinars and taking courses and just learning as much about a variety of topics as I can.
Mhm.
And then it just comes with practice, so after 15 years of constantly jumping onto new projects every couple of months, it's just something that you start to get good at over time. It's sink or swim sometimes, right? You get put onto a new project, you don't know the client, you don't know their business, and you have to quickly kind of ask a lot of questions, consume a whole bunch of background information, and get up to speed so that you can add value as fast as possible. So I think once you do that, over and over and over again, I wouldn't say like 10 times, but several times, you start to get more proficient at it. I don't know if I have any tips or tricks, but just it comes with practice, and it comes with being really curious and loving to learn new things.
Right. You know what I was looking for? I was almost like looking for an answer like, you know, the pyramid principle. Have you read that book?
A long time ago, the Minto, is it Barbara
Barbara,
Minto?
yeah. And like I really appreciate books like that, as well as just kind of acquiring mental models to be able to use in many situations. So I know that there's no one solution to like every situation, but when you expose yourself to different mental models, eventually you're going to realize that there's so many similar patterns in problems that, let's say, clients have, or whether it's, process related, technology related, is a cultural issue within the organization. And when you kind of acquire all of these mental models, you can utilize them to your advantage in different scenarios. However, of course, experience also helps, like you said, being exposed to these projects and different problems like 10, 20, 30 times over the past 15 years, that definitely helps. And would you say that, as a consultant, you've been able to cover or improve some of your own communication skills over time? Like, were you always as eloquent or as articulate or as good as synthesizing information as you are right now?
No, yeah, no, those are all learned things that I've had to practice and develop and get better at over time. And part of it is obviously being open and asking for feedback from clients and from, your the partner that you're working with if you're in a firm, or your performance coach. And having some of those tough conversations maybe about times where you weren't very clear, or you weren't very eloquent, or you didn't, lead a meeting in the most effective way. And taking that in and not being defensive, and then just constantly trying to get better at it.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, synthesizing information is something I've always really enjoyed doing and been good at. I think because of my, science background and then finance degree, you kind of get used to dealing with a lot of information, whether it's financial or technical or scientific, and then being able to synthesize it and then communicate it really effectively so that your client can make a decision with that information. Um, and then in terms of like speaking eloquently, it's still a work in progress, I would say. But yeah, same thing comes with practice. Once you have to deliver, workshops or deliver presentations to a steering committee, you do it over and over again, and it becomes a lot more natural and less stressful.
Yeah, for sure. And how do you deal with internal, at least like when you were a consultant at Deloitte, how would you deal with internal team issues? Let's say if you had a problem with one of your teammates or a team leader who's not competent enough and is creating a lot of obstacles and challenges within the project itself, like how would you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's going to encounter those types of situations working in consulting, especially if you, have a very diverse team with people who have different perspectives, different backgrounds, different levels of seniority within the firm. There's obviously going to be some power struggles. There's going to be some sources of conflict.
Yeah.
And I think my approach has always been trying to be as respectful and direct as possible. So having a direct conversation first with the person that you might be having a conflict or an issue with, and seeing if you can resolve it in just an open and respectful way, and not doing the thing where you like go and complain about that person just to a bunch of other people. I'd rather just avoid all of that, not get sucked into any drama, and try to resolve it on your own. And if you can't resolve it on your own and it's causing, broader consequences to the team or to the success of the client, then you kind of have to escalate it upwards and talk to your manager or your partner that you're working with.
Yeah, and this kind of like also improves your own, skills and communicating as well, because it's different people, like you said, different backgrounds, and over time you learn to deal with all of these different personalities, right?
Because that's something that doesn't go away throughout the course of your career. You're always going to have maybe a person that you work with whose perspective doesn't align to yours, and so it's always going to be this little thing. And so I don't know, I just rather address it directly than let it fester in the background or have it cause drama.
Yeah, and it's also really important not to be too reactive, right? Or too impulsive when it comes to, because there's always going to be, a little conflict or friction in any communication that you have within a team or even with the client. And an important aspect of being a consultant is to be able to almost like mask some of that emotion in the moment, right?
Yeah, I agree. And, because consulting can be pretty stressful. You're working on these projects that usually have high impact or consequence. Maybe the timeline is really tight or the budget is really tight. And so you feel that pressure, and it can sort of start to impact the way that you, react to situations. And so it is a skill, I think, to be able to like remain calm and professional at all times and not let those things impact the way that you're showing up or communicating with your team or your client.
Right. Okay, so I do want to learn more about your business as well. So can you tell me more about, I know you coach people and you're also a consultant. So what do you what do you do when you're coaching people? Like what does that look like? And how many clients do you work with at, let's say, one given time? Or what are some common patterns that, or common lessons that you teach the people that you're coaching?
So with the coaching program that I'm doing, it's really like I'm not necessarily teaching anybody how to be a consultant. So that's kind of the first thing to clarify is I'm really trying to attract people who already have probably a couple of years at least of consulting experience, whether it's in a big firm, a small firm, doesn't matter too much to me, but they
Mhm.
already sort of have the core skill set of consulting.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to teach them is how to navigate that transition from being an employee to actually running your own business, because those are obviously very different. And
And
so
do you only coach women, or do you coach men too?
that's a great question. I started out thinking I mostly wanted to work with women
Yeah.
because I think we maybe deal with some other, I don't know, struggles
Yeah.
as compared to men. But just based on the number of other people who have reached out to me in the last few months, I'm actually planning for the next group that I take on. It's going to be completely open, inclusive to all gender identities. So I think I'm going to give that a shot and just see how it goes with a mixed group. But up
Okay.
until now, I've mostly worked with women. I've had only one man come through my program so far.
Okay, nice. And only one man came through a program because it's a very strict program, or is it only because one man was interested to join the program?
Well, I think it's because he didn't really notice or care the fact that all of my marketing material was speaking to women.
Okay.
He was just somebody that I knew from Deloitte previously. And so he and I just had a conversation, and I was like, "You want to take my program? Sure, you can come in." And he
Okay.
didn't even really necessarily realize or care that it was directed mostly at females. So he
Right.
fit in, just it
He
was
was just
totally fine.
curious. He wanted to learn, right? That
Yeah,
didn't.
he just wanted to learn what I was
Yeah.
teaching. And so that sort of made me realize, like, yeah, maybe gender doesn't matter at all. We all
Yeah.
sort of have the same fears. We all have the same maybe issues with confidence or needing guidance, needing some support, and needing like a clear path to follow to basically go from the decision to quit your job to hopefully running a very profitable, successful consulting business.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, most of what you said really pertains to both men and women. Maybe if you go into the super, super detailed kind of nuances of certain scenarios, then maybe, it matters. But overall, like you said, everyone wants to grow, everyone wants to learn how to, let's say, become a better consultant in this context. So that's cool. And what would you say has been some of the challenges that your clients have faced in their transition from getting to being an employee to getting to being an entrepreneur of their own business?
Well, so I'm catching people at different stages in their journey, I would say, if that's it's a way to put it. Some
Okay.
people are still employed full time and they're very busy trying to continue doing a good job of
Mhm.
providing consulting services to their firm. And they're trying to do this thing on the side, build a consulting business. Other people have already quit and have already kind of launched, and they're just looking for additional support. So I have to kind of try to meet people where they're at in their journey. I'd say the main challenges that people feel, probably first and foremost, is around confidence and mindset, especially in terms of just having the confidence to know that you can sell your services by yourself, um, and set pricing, like set your fees in a way that's reflective of the value that you're going to deliver to your clients. I've noticed that a lot of people, when they're exiting a consulting firm, you sort of have this mindset that you're only worth the salary that you've been paid up until this point. And so it's really
Right.
hard to make a mental jump to like, oh, wait, I could charge like 2 or 3 times what I've been earning as an employee. And so I often have to work with my clients and nudge them and get them to do some work and some reflection to see you're worth more than you think you are. And your clients are happy to pay for the value that you're bringing to them and delivering to them. That's why there's always a little bit of mindset and confidence work kind of throughout the whole program.
Yeah, I really appreciate that you said mindset and confidence, because as an employee, you start kind of believing and internalizing the fact that this is all that I am, and I don't think that I have the ability to necessarily sell, which, by the way, is very hard for a lot of people. I, like you said, don't have the confidence to set the price for myself, the right price for myself and what I'm worth. And then on top of that, it's almost like you're managing all of the aspects of your business, whereas when you were an employee, you were only given projects. They were just handed down to you on a plate, and you would just, consult on different projects. So that's definitely like a jump. And how how much experience would you say your clients have before starting their own journey? Like maybe 5 to 10 years or 10 plus years of consulting before they start?
So I've had a range of people's ages from 25 to 55. And
Mhm.
so within that range, there's people who have just a couple of years, kind of like, less than 5 years of work experience, and some people who have more like 20 to 30 years. So again, a huge range. And I wouldn't say that there's any magical number of what's the right number of years of experience you should have before you go out on your own. It really comes down to like evaluating, do you have a skill set that's in demand in the market? Do you have a network that's big enough to potentially help you find your first few contracts? Because that's always what I recommend. You're going to have much more success probably finding your first clients through people that you already know, whether it's classmates, colleagues, former bosses, former clients. That's the place where you should start.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, there's definitely some pieces that I think people should evaluate for themselves to sort of decide, like, am I ready? Is this the right time for me to do this? Do I have a financial cushion set aside, for example, to be able to tide myself over for maybe 3 to 6 months before I really get up and running and start, collecting collecting the revenue. But that's part of the process too, is figuring out all those pieces and planning in a really thoughtful way. So you're not just quitting and hoping you're going to figure it out. It's like put those pieces in place in a thoughtful way if you can.
Yeah, you don't want to be rash. And the reason I mentioned like how many years of experience, it was mostly because I thought that maybe the larger your network, which ideally it rises with time, right? The number of people that then the easier it is to kind of transition because you know a lot more people, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, I think it's going to be a lot easier for you if you have a fairly significant network of people that you could connect with and let them know that you're starting your own business and that you're going to be looking for consulting contracts.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. And yeah, that's really some of the things that I wanted to know. I do want to check out your, business or your company as well. So if you want to plug it in here as well for people to check it out, then feel free to do that.
Yeah, so my company is called The Right Company, and my program's called Take the Leap. I think it's really a leap of faith to go out into entrepreneurship and bet on yourself and be in charge of your professional success in the future. So
Okay, well, that's cool. I know you're busy as well, Amanda. If there's any last things that you want to talk about or anything that we didn't touch on, please feel free to do so.
I really enjoyed our conversation, and I'm passionate about consulting. I really love consulting, and especially about encouraging more women, but also all genders to stay in the industry, but to do it in a way that, lets them lead the life that they want to have and lets them earn the income that they deserve. So that's kind of my driving force with launching my own coaching program, is to help more people do what I've been able to set up for myself, because I'm really happy being my own boss. So yeah, thanks for an opportunity to chat about consulting and about my coaching program. I really enjoyed it.
Of course, thank you too. Appreciate your time.
Great.
Take care. Bye-bye.